It's Sunday here in North America, so I hope that if you're here and it's Sunday, that you're having a great weekend. And if it's Monday, as in Australia, New Zealand, and the like, hopefully you're having a great Monday as well. Wherever you're from and joining us, I'm happy that you're here. We've got a lot in store for today's live stream. As you know, we're going through the workbook for students of A Course in Miracles, and we've arrived at lesson 20 today, which is significant for a number of reasons. It really is. And while we wait a minute for people to come on board and to share here, I'll just say that I always have fun doing the workbook again. This is, in fact, and I'm doing it as I go through and conduct this live stream, this will be the third time for me all the way through. Now, I hear a lot of things from a lot of people because I've led groups. I have a blog that's dedicated to the workbook for students of this course. And I started writing that 3 years ago, the first time I went through this. And I can tell you what, time number 3 is really different than the first time around. It's like watching a movie for the third time. You notice more. If it's something that you really enjoyed the first time around, then you enjoy it even more. And you've noticed different things, different plot points, different things that a character may say, different visual elements or audio elements. You'll notice different things. Same with a novel. Same with a novel. It doesn't matter if you've read it 20 times. If you're enjoying it, the 20th time is always different than the first. So I really am enjoying that. And if you're following along in this workbook for the very first time, number one, welcome. And I'm glad you're doing this with me. And I hope that you're finding these exercises helpful in some way. The workbook is very, very clear that it doesn't expect us to necessarily agree with everything. Why? Because we're so ingrained. Honestly, we are. We're so ingrained in a particular way of looking at things, in a particular perspective, in other words, the perspective of this 3D world, that it's real difficult sometimes for us to admit that maybe we've got it wrong and that we want to change, yet we can feel this urgency inside of us. And if you're watching this, you feel it. Most definitely. It's an urgency to get back to, and there's nowhere to go, but to get back to where we're really from. In other words, home. There's an urgency for us to know, and I mean really deep level know ourselves and who we are. That's the journey, so to speak, the path that we're all on. And it's fun that we're doing it together here. So I really do appreciate that. Now, you'll notice in the description, whether you're catching this live or on the replay, doesn't matter. You'll notice that I said for today, for lesson 20, if there ever were a lesson here in the workbook that was worth going through line for line, it's this one. So we're going to do that. I haven't done that yet, and I don't often do that. Usually, I mean, we're all adults. We're all adult learners. Typically, what I like to do is just introduce the idea and talk about how that's impacted my life and some of my own experiences, with the hope that that will resonate with you in some way. That there'll be something that you can pick out, maybe learn, maybe something that reinforces something positive for you. And we can go through and read the day's exercise, the commentary on the exercise on our own. Today, there's so much going on here that let's break it down. So if you're following along here, I've got lesson 20 of the workbook for students out right here in front of me. And it says, I am determined to see. Yeah, I am determined to see. First sentence of the commentary states, we've been quite casual about our practice periods so far. That's for sure, right? That's for sure. And I hope that you've found that a deliberately easy integration into these exercises. That's my hope. There's been virtually no attempt, and I'm quoting again, there's been virtually no attempt to direct the time for undertaking them, being the exercises. Minimal effort has been required, and not even active cooperation and interest have been asked for. That's true. We've just been asked so far to take the lesson, apply it, just practice it, whether we're interested in it or not, whether we believe it or not, whether we actively resist it or not, whether the ego is screaming at us, which it often does, or not. Yeah. We've not lost sight of the crucial importance of the reversal of your thinking. This is the workbook talking again. The salvation of the world depends on it. Yeah. Yet you will not see if you regard yourself as being coerced, and if you give into resentment and opposition. Yeah, very, very important. The workbook starts off rather gently because we have free will. And think about your parents, for example. If your parents or a school teacher or someone told you to do something and you really didn't want to do it, and they said, just do it because I said, I mean, are you likely to do that, or were you likely to rebel? Well, I'll tell you, I didn't do anything that they told me to do in that tone. Right? I don't do coercion, and we as human beings don't do coercion either. And this is a very loving, compassionate way that Jesus recognizes, yeah, we can't really just force this down somebody. We can't be made to do something just because somebody says. Yeah. And we can't have a vision. We can't have the real nature of ourselves, of our being forced upon us. We're not being coerced, which means it's our responsibility to step up and make the decision to see. I'm determined to see. That's the lesson for today. Okay, so second paragraph. This is our first attempt to introduce structure. Do not misconstrue it, Jesus says, as an effort to exert force or pressure, which it's not. We just talked about that. You want salvation. You want salvation. You want to be happy. Do you not? You want peace. You do not have them now because your mind is totally undisciplined, and you cannot distinguish between joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, love and fear. You are now learning to tell them apart, and great indeed will be your reward. Yeah, yeah. And of course, he's speaking to me. I'm looking at the camera, and you're watching this live stream. He's also speaking to me too, when he talks about our minds being undisciplined. I mean, who hasn't sat down in meditation and had one wild thought after another? I mean, I've had meditation sessions like that. I've been meditating for about 36 years. I started my own personal meditation practice when I was a sophomore in high school, which is a lot of sitting on my butt and meditating. It's a lot. That also means I've been distracted a lot, millions of times. I can't count the number of times I've fallen asleep. Oh yeah, you can totally sit down and try to do one of these workbook exercises, which is the same as a meditation. Honestly, a practice period here in the workbook for students is analogous. It's quite the same thing in the end. Yeah, and you could be thinking about breakfast. The breakfast you may have had today. You could be thinking about tomorrow. You can think about what you're going to wear tomorrow, and you have all of these random thoughts coming up. You could think, oh my gosh, my leg hurts. My knee's a little uncomfortable. I think I'm just going to wiggle around here, maybe open my eyes. Right? The mind just goes and goes and runs and runs. And what we're doing in meditation is disciplining the mind, not discipline as in the sense of punishment, like you've been bad. No, it's adding some structure and creating space for ourselves. That's what meditation is, by the way. It's creating space for yourself. psychological, emotional, spiritual space. Space for what? Space to make different decisions about who you are, about what you're going to do right now in the present moment, about who you are in the world, about how you show up, how you interrelate to people, decisions that we all make every moment of every day. And we cannot be coerced into making them either. We make them. And that's why Jesus is very clear about not violating our free will. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. So, your decision to see is all that vision requires. I'm continuing on here with what's written here in the workbook. And vision, what we're referring to as vision, is not vision with the body's eyes, right? That are essentially mirrors. And biologically, they're mirrors that see images. We actually see inside. That's the way that actually functions. And we'll talk more about that, of course, throughout this live stream. But your decision to see is all that's required, a decision right now on your part. Right? What you want is yours. Yeah, we're already spirit. We're the Son of God. What you want, peace, love, is yours. Why? Because it's who you are. It's who we all are. All right. The workbook goes on to say, do not mistake the little effort that is asked of you for an indication that our goal, the peace of God, is of little worth. Can the salvation of the world be a trivial purpose? Indeed not. And can the world be saved if you are not? God has one Son, and he is the resurrection and the life. His will is done because all power is given him in heaven and on earth. In your determination to see is vision given you. Okay, so again, we're using language that seems like it's coming out of the Bible, right? The Son of God. That's all of us. So, yeah, this is the language that is used here in A Course in Miracles. As the extension of God, we're referred to as the Son of God. And yeah, if you want to say daughter or whatever else, that's absolutely fine. Yeah, just know that this is the language that we're using here. And God has one Son, right? God is one, just love. So when God extends himself, you can't extend what you're not, right? That's not possible, to extend yourself as something else other than who and what you are. We can all do this math, right? We are one with God. Yeah. So let's talk about further the exercises in lesson 20, because this is important. Moving forward from here, the practice periods are going to look differently in the workbook. So the workbook reads, the exercises for today consist in reminding yourself throughout the day that you want to see. I am determined to see. Today's idea also tacitly implies the recognition that you do not see now. Very important. The ego, of course, is going to be very, very deeply, powerfully resistant to that. Yeah, I see right now. I see myself talking online. Yeah, I see trees outside. I see the blue sky. I see the paintings behind me, reflected on the screen. I see. That's what the ego wants to tell you. The ego wants to know it all, but it's completely confused and in fact doesn't know anything. So it would do anything to throw us off, to keep us distracted, to keep us from working on ourselves, honestly. Yeah. So we don't see now. We want to. We're determined to. Today's idea implies that recognition. Therefore, as you repeat the idea, you're stating that you're determined to change your present state for a better one. the one you really want. We're determined to change our present state for a better one, the one we really want. Peaceful, happy, joyful, loving, constantly, not interrupted by a fit of rage, not interrupted by pain or grief, suffering, lack, frustration. So the final paragraph tells us how we're to go about practicing this idea for today. Repeat today's idea slowly and positively at least twice an hour today, attempting to do so every half hour. Do not be distressed if you forget to do so, please. But make a real effort to remember. And the extra repetitions of the day's idea I'm determined to see should be applied to any situation, person, or event that upsets you outside of the practice periods. Well, we're going to have those occurrences today because we have them every day, don't we? You can see them differently, and you will. What you desire, you will see. Such is the real law of cause and effect as it operates in the world. Okay, so I don't usually read through the commentary verbatim, but I've done it today because there's so many important points. And this next to last sentence, what you desire, you will see. Let's emphasize will. It's not italicized, it's not bolded in this text, but I'm going to emphasize it here. What you desire, you will see. If you really deep down desire lack and frustration, what will you get but lack and frustration? If you desire peace, you will see peace. Will see peace. So let's make that decision. Let's reinforce today as we practice the workbook exercises for lesson 20 that we are determined to see. Now I'm going to turn some comments on here, and I hope that you're enjoying this. And let me bring up some comments and just say hello to everybody that's been joining me here on the live stream. I really appreciate your tuning in. Well, hello, Isabel, how are you? Andrea and Robert. Robert, thank you for joining me. Yes. And Christina, hello. Yes. Well, you know, if there's a comment that that some of you may be having a hard time getting to all the videos, YouTube is a great place. So Enlightened World Network has a YouTube channel where all of these videos are, well, they're stored there in a playlist for A Course in Miracles 365. That's a good place. Also, if they get buried in a Facebook feed, that's what I would recommend, is that you go to the YouTube channel to look at all of the videos from past days. Because I've been doing this is day number 28 of this live stream. So that's a good place to be. Deidre, hello, how are you? All right. Yes, Cindy, the birth month is still on, by the way. My wife, Cindy, it's still February. So yeah, and Cindy writes, love isn't female or male human being. We're just love. I love that. Yes, very true. Yeah. And I got over thinking I had to call myself a female spirit, so to speak. Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, we only have a few minutes left, but there's a lot of richness in this that I want to get to. So thank you for the comment. Yeah, I feel like it took away the power of my ego and my thoughts. Yes. Okay, so ultimately, what is gender? Actually, ultimately, I'm speaking from the ultimate point of view of spirit. Right? It's a term. Ultimately, guys, as spirit, we're not even what we call human beings deep down. And we're talking about the essence of who we really are. It's beyond any concept of good, bad, tall, short, middle-aged with gray hair, young, old, whatever. Those are all just words. And it's beyond any concept like gender or species, for that matter. Spirit is God is just love, one. So To the extent that in this world and in your life, you are empowered by certain adjectives, terms, labels like gender, then we're not saying don't keep that sense of empowerment here. Yeah, this is just the ultimate point of view. And it's a very good point, Cindy, that you make, is it took away some ego power in your own thoughts to stop identifying yourself as one thing or another. Right? Because in the world, I mean, I look at myself, okay, I'm a man, I'm male, right? I identify myself as that. But there's no separation of any kind. A period. There's no separation of any kind. So this is something that the world, of course, rejects completely. The ego rejects completely and tries to convince you to also reject completely. Yet, why do we keep hearing it again and again? Why are you here tuning into this live stream? So you can hear it again from a different person this time. Perhaps this time it sinks in, perhaps not. That's okay. My job is just to show up, turn the camera on, turn the microphone on, and begin to share my experience with you. May it resonate. Okay. Hello, everybody. Yes, thank you. Love is a state of being, no consciousness, no gender. Yes, agreed. Completely. Yeah. Yeah, and right, I love this. Yeah, okay. So there's a couple of questions about finding, in a couple of minutes that we have left here, there's a couple of questions about finding the times for this. What I would recommend to everybody is that you check out the Facebook page for Enlightened World Network and like that Facebook page, like and follow it. Pinned at the top of the feed every day is what we call a show guide, which talks about the daily show times. Now, this show, as you've noticed, is kind of all over the map. I try to do them here in the morning in North America because that's the best time for me, but it's not always available. So what I would have everyone do is please check out that show guide every day. It's updated every day, and that'll show the day's programming here on Enlightened World Network. And I'm happy that you've joined me. Now, if you have any additional questions, please feel welcome to reach out here in the comments. I will check them throughout the day. So if you're catching this on the replay, thank you so much for tuning in today. And I hope that today's practice is fruitful for you and makes you feel good to express your own determination to see who you really are. All right. Everyone.